It's so bad. It's not Dota, and it's teaching people the wrong. You know what? What's kind of funny is you were like a couple months ago. You were always complaining. You're always complaining about like your high divine, low immortal pubs and just like how awful they can be. And
Yes,
now that I'm there, I just like
I
I,
still
I
complain about
I
those.
completely understand where you're coming from. I feel like mid divine to low, like mid divine to high divine, is kind of at that point where everybody has like maxed out as far as they could get based off of exclusively ability to farm and like mechanical skill.
Easy
It,
stuff.
and like the decision making is literally still
Stuff that
like
doesn't
it's like
stuff that
Archon
doesn't
level.
require a lot of thinking. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the like decision making and like should we take this
But
fight? What is a power spike?
but
Is literally
but these
Archon level.
people but these people have the biggest egos in Dota because
Yes.
they're divine and immortal.
Yes.
So they think that they've accomplished this. You know that most players set that as like their goal. They're like, oh, I want to
Right.
get divine or I want to get immortal. Those are just like the uh the golden. It's like it's like the highest level like you can casually really get to,
Right.
and people want to get that to like apex their skill. And so they think that when they get there they've apex their skill, but it's quite the opposite. That's kind of like the baseline. That's when you can really start understanding actual Dota. And
Right.
I don't mean to sound like elitist in that sense. It's just that, as you were saying, Donnie, up until that rating, people get carried by pure impulse.
Yeah.
Not a lot of thinking really has to happen, because you can. Well, number one, it's way easier to just keep queuing, and that's what
Exactly.
most people do because it's just a game. People are trying to have fun, so it makes sense. It's not unreasonable. Not a lot of people, maybe Dota players aside, not a lot of people want to research and study a game. It's like I understand that, but at that point, you have to, if you want to get better, you have to actually put a lot of effort in.
Right.
It's
Yeah. It's just so funny. It's just really so funny, like the contrast, because you'll also get the people that got there through like cerebral approach to the game and not so mechanical, because that can also carry you, and that can carry you perhaps even farther than mechanics can, because Dota is essentially about making good decisions all the time. And so you have this weird dichotomy where sometimes you get these games where everybody is like on the same page, everybody like can look at the map and read what's going on in the game, and they're like, oh, okay, a BKB means that we can actually fight now, or like a ultimate coming off a cooldown means that we should probably smoke up or group up and push a tower. And then you also have, in the exact same games, you have people who are like, I need to go hit creeps for 35 minutes, and then I will press my buttons really fast and hope that we win the game. And it's like, sure, that's worked for you because, I mean, let's be honest. There are a fuck ton of guys out there. There are so many people on Reddit. There are so many people who made YouTube videos in the past
On YouTube,
who
in
literally,
particular, in the
their,
past few days.
their entire thesis on how to win solo queue games is go sit in your jungle and farm for 30 minutes.
1v5.
Yeah, it's 1v5, 1v9. And that is so stupid. It's so bad. It's not Dota, and it's teaching people the wrong shit. Like, you're not going to be a good player. You're going to be good at hitting creeps. You're going to be good at casting your spells, but you're not going to be a good Dota player. It's just weird that
I actually
exists.
had one of our Patreon subscribers today was messaging me. One of the F is for Friends Patreon. His name's Banana Bomb, and he was asking me questions about pubs as I was pubbing, which was cool. It's nice to have a conversation about that,
Yeah.
especially because it kind of makes me realize like the shit I was doing wrong because he was watching it. So he can, like, it's like free coaching. But anyway, for me, but he was asking, or he was saying how certain things might work in like my bracket and not in his bracket, and I mentioned to him that, or he said something along the lines of like, oh, people in my bracket play a lot slower. People in his bracket, I should say, play a lot slower. So does that mean you can play slow as well? You can pick heroes that abuse playing slow. And what I said was, I'm a firm believer that just because people in your bracket play slow doesn't mean that you need to play slow as well. In fact, if you're the only person that's playing fast, I think you're going to be exponentially better than everybody in that game because it's such a good concept to play fast. And, you know, there's a lot of other concepts that people are possibly missing in the lower brackets. And if you just aren't missing those and you're not allowing yourself to succumb to other people missing those, I think you're going to be a lot better off. And I say that with like some anecdotal evidence from recent. So I just did the Jungle Jam event, and Z-Freak was there. So I spent a lot of time talking to him. I was basically just spamming him with questions because I was interested to just hear his insight, because I think he's like an incredibly good player. And he didn't pub at all. He's one of those players that just never pubbed. Ever since he was playing with his brother. Like his brother didn't pub that much, but Z-Freak, he just plays like Dota Underlords and Dawn of War and these like random games and a bit of Overthrow. But he's so good in game, and he spends a lot of time thinking about the game. But he did come into pubbing. He for whatever reason he buckled down and he started pubbing. So he went from rank 300 to about rank 50 within a couple of weeks. And I don't know if you guys know what the MMR difference is between rank 300 and rank 50. It's like 1,500 or something like that.
Right.
He went from like 6.5k to like 7.9k within a period of like 2 weeks. And I asked him what he did to do that, and he said that he just went into games and played a good 4 roll. He just played what he thought was a good 4 roll. And in the games that he had a good core, he'd win. In the games that he had bad cores, he'd lose. But more often than not, there's at least one good core, so that if he was playing a good 4 roll, that core would be able to carry the game based off of what he was doing on the map.
Right.
So I really think that the idea that you need to cater to your bracket and not just play good Dota is, it might not be incorrect, but I don't think it's an optimal way to gain MMR, because
that's a really good
gain
way
like
to put it.
You're going to gain like 200 MMR, right? And then what you need to do in the different brackets going to change. It's not sustainable.
Right.
It is straight up not sustainable. But what is sustainable is just saying, okay, I'm going to formulate an opinion of Dota and just play good Dota, and I'm going to maybe win, I'm going to maybe lose. I'm going to have a 52% win rate instead of a 54% win rate in this 200 MMR bracket, and then a 48% win rate in the next one above, and then you have to lose a bunch to learn. No, you're just going to stick at 52% and keep rising, keep rising, keep rising, and be consistent, and eventually just get super high rate. I think that's the play. I think you just play good Dota, and you're going to win the game. Which is why I don't like that a lot of these channels and a lot of these Reddit threads and everything, and I know we've done it in the past too, and I feel bad about it. I don't like the promotion of playing pub Dota, playing like solo Dota in 1v5 Dota. I think that's a toxic mentality, because at a certain point it bites you in the ass, and you need to learn how to do it the right way anyway. So why the fuck not do it the right way from the get-go?
Exactly. I think, I mean, I definitely have been experiencing this myself ever since I basically just started only playing hard support. It's like, what would happen in the past is I'd play a bunch of hard support, I'd have good success, I'd win, and then I'd go on a streak of having like 4 or 5 games where all of my cores are just ass, and like I'm not doing enough. Or sometimes I get lazy and don't do my job quite as well, and so I'd lose 4 or 5 games and suddenly be like, all right, all of my cores are terrible, and then I'd switch and play another role, and then I'd be like, you know, losing more games while I'm relearning how to play that role at the MMR that I'm at.
Yeah.
And
there's this constant relearning that you have
exactly.
to do.
And now that I'm just playing hard support all the time, I'll go through these little loss streaks every now and then. Sometimes it's like 5, 6 games, but it never gets any bigger than that, it seems like. It's always like I'm just able to right the ship all of a sudden.
Consistency.
Exactly.
It fosters consistency.
Exactly. And
yeah, I totally agree.
Just like, I just really like that idea of like playing the game correctly being what's promoted, as opposed to kind of like what's a hack to get the most MMR as quickly as possible. Just because
then you're constantly going to have to be finding these hacks, and
right, and you're going to run out, and some of them are not going to work, and it's just like, you know, I was actually having a conversation with somebody on Discord earlier today, and they were talking about just like exactly that concept, like this works at my bracket, and so that's just how I'm going to play the game. And I was just like, I mean, that's fine, but like you said, it's just not optimal. It's like you have found this approach that works, but it's just not optimal. And if you really want to get better, you should try to optimize as much as possible instead of relying on like a crutch that's been winning you games.
I was actually talking to Brax a couple of days ago. I just spam him with questions on Steam, and he's cool enough to like answer. Because, you know, he's an offlaner, I'm an offlaner, so I kind of look up to him and just try to get, like, info from him if I can. So I was asking about, like, as an offlaner, let's say you're, like, a Sand King, right? What are typical items on Sand King? Pipe, Blink Dagger, Veil of Discord, right? These are very typical offlaning items. But I was asking, what do you do in a case of a game where you think that you need to be the one that hard carries the game? What if you think that your cores can't help in terms of carrying the game? And he said essentially that he'd rather lose building the right stuff than win with like the wrong shit, because more often than not, when you build those other items, like such as Radiance or whatever you want to build on Sand King to be like more of a hard farming / carry hero, then you're taking space from your cores, and it messes up the entire game, and you're not even playing Dota. So a lot of the time, it'll just lose you Dota based off of how the map like randomly changes by you being that hero that's taking that farm. And in like 60% of games, you're gonna have a core or a support that can play with you and do well with you. That if you just build the regular items, you're gonna win the game. Like there's a reason there are these roles in Dota. It's like a lot of these people that play 5 and then they don't buy any wards, and it's like, well, there's a reason that after so many years of this game existing, that there's a role that's dedicated to like buying all the wards and all the sentries. And if you're not doing that, then that's fine. You don't have to enjoy that play style, but you should play another role. You should play another hero, because that is good and it's required in a game, and you're gonna lose to anybody that's just doing the right stuff. And well, why do you want to lose? Well, who would advocate losing like that? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I do want to, like, I mean, I agree for the most part with what Brax is saying, and obviously he's objectively a better Dota player than I am, but I do think that there's something to be said about having like some flexibility in how you approach the game, because I don't think that you should always play like a position 6. You shouldn't always just starve yourself of
no.
Right? Sometimes you do need to buy, like, all right, if I happen to get a Hex this game, there's absolutely no way that we lose. If I happen to get a 4-staff this game, there's no way that we lose, because they can't kill my cores. And so maybe you play a little bit more greedy than you would otherwise, because your other players are not doing the job. And so it's not like you should completely turn into a carry when your team can't carry, but you should also consider what jobs are not being done. It's more about the jobs than
that's
like the
the
role.
difference. It's the jobs. It's like objectively playing good Dota versus just being upset at your team and thinking that they're bad and then playing in a different way. You'd rather have like a kind of bad carry being able to play the game than to ruin their game because you think that they're bad, and then you're the carry, and all of a sudden you fucked up the map. You don't have an offlaner now. Like that's kind of what Brax is saying. Is
exactly.
He doesn't let his like emotions or idea of how bad people are in his games dictate the way that he plays. He just if the game presents itself where he gets really farmed, he'll take the farm and buy greedier items or something like that.
Right.
But he won't be like, oh, my carry's a moron, I'm not going to build this pipe because why do I even want to save him because he's an idiot.
Right.
So you'd rather play good Dota.
Yeah.
And then if the carry makes mistakes, well then fuck it, you lose. Arteezy loses games. What can you do?